yeah, we do have other TCG exclusives that were announced. We're gonna start with the less exciting one, but also a funny one, which is the VIP Whale, which is a level 6 light monster, which is a fish effect, 2400 attack, 1000 defense. It is Monarch stats, and it says you can tribute additional monsters when you tribute summon this face-up card. If this card is tribute summoned, you can place VIP counters on this card equal to the number of monsters tributed for its tribute summon. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can remove a VIP counter from this card, toss a coin, and call it. If you call it right, negate that effect. If you call it wrong, this card's original attack becomes halved until the end of this turn. Well, we don't have to talk about it much, right? This card is unplayable. No one is ever going to play this card. It's just a fun pack filler, which is all right, but there's not much to it. I think it's funny. Someone also just said this card is Appaloosa, but with gambling, which is a funny way to look at it. But yeah, obviously, it's not going to be worth it to play a tribute summon in your deck that you have to tribute summon a bunch of monsters for just to get maybe a negate out of it if you flip heads. So, yeah, this card goes crazy with spell card soul exchange. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be a thing where you play those two cards together. I don't know. I guess, you know what? That is actually, even though the chances for this are incredibly small, this could be the one use case I could see for this card. If you play like Monarchs, because this has Monarch stats, and you decide to play spell card soul exchange, maybe you play this as a one-off so that you can search it with like Return of the Monarchs or whatever. And then if you have spell card soul exchange, you contribute the entire board. It's still super niche and probably would never happen. But that's like the one thing I could maybe see happening. But yeah, I mean, this is just a funny Gamba card that's probably not going to see play. But yeah. Okay. The real deal, I think, the card that was all over my feed yesterday was Shade the Obscure, which is a secret rare in the set as well, and it's quite something. And now this card was impossible to get around for me, so I've already seen this card, and I think that's a good thing here that I'm not blind reacting to this one, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I think this card needs some context. I do think this card requires some context to understand why it's good, because when I read it for the first time, I didn't think it was that crazy, but we'll get into that. So it's a scale 11. You cannot pendulum summon except pendulum monsters. This effect cannot be negated. If a monster with 1000 attack or less is special summoned, you can return this card to the hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. And then the monster effect is if you have a card in your pendulum zone and this card is in your hand, you can special summon this card. And then on an ignition effect, you can pay 1000 life points, destroy a pendulum monster card in hand or face-up field. Then you can add a pendulum monster from your deck to your face-up extra deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. So when I read this card for the first time yesterday, my initial response was like, okay, that it doesn't, in a vacuum, this card seems fine to me. Like in a vacuum, this card seems like generic pendulum support, and it's just like, okay, right? However, with some context to it, and the more I saw people talk about it, and the more I thought about why they made it in this set as well, it became clear that this card is very, very good support for power patrons. And this works in a couple of different ways. So the first card we need to take a look at for this is Unleashed Power Patron Portal Terminus, which is a spell that Power Patron was already using as a 3-of, that says send the Power Patron from your deck or extra deck to the grave. Then you can add a Dark Fairy monster from your deck to your hand. Also, you can't declare attacks for the rest of this turn, except with Power Patrons. And then it has a random bonus effect in the graveyard. But basically, this card is a card that Power Patron already plays this card. But this adding any Dark Fairy means that it can add Shade the Obscure. And Shade the Obscure is incredibly strong in Power Patron because all of the Power Patrons, first of all, scale 11, I believe, means you can pendulum summon all of these because they are all level 10, the big Power Patrons. But every single one of the Power Patrons has the effect of, if this card is added to your extra deck face up, you can add a Power Patron or in this case, Doom Z spell trap from your deck to your hand. But then, like, for example, the other ones are like, if this card's added to your extra deck, you can special summon a Power Patron or Archmage monster from your deck. So like, this is the Archmage Power Patron. It tutors out Archmages, and then the Doom Z Power Patron is Power Patron and Doom Z, and so on and so forth. You get it, right? But all of them have an effect if they're added to the extra deck, which is something that they can do in engine already, but it is, I think, a little bit clunky sometimes, because like you do have to jump through some hoops to make that happen. And now you can. And I think that's going to make this deck significantly stronger, because this card, once again, you might think like, oh, this is only part of like 2-card combos because you need a card in your pendulum zone. You don't. You can just normal summon this guy. You can normal summon this guy, pay 1,000 life points, destroy itself, and then add a pendulum monster from your deck to your extra deck, which can trigger any of the Power Patrons that you want. So this is essentially, if you think about it, in some ways, this is also worst case scenario. This is like a Lone Fire Blossom for like Archmage, for example, because you can destroy itself and then summon any Archmage from the deck. So there's a lot of potential here with this card. And also, let me check the scales, but I think all of the Power Patrons, all of them are scale 1. Actually, no, the big one is scale 11. This one is scale 11, yeah. So they have the option to pendulum summon already, but with this one being another high scale in the mix, there's going to just be more and more opportunities to use this card. But even if you look past the applications of this card as a 1-card combo, it becomes incredibly broken when we're talking about this card as a 2-card combo. Because if you draw this card with any other Power Patron, right, what you can do is you put the Power Patron in the scale, then you can use the effect of this card in your hand. And at this point, it's not going to take up your normal summon. It's going to be a special summon. And then instead of popping itself, what you're going to do is you're going to pop the Power Patron in your scale. You're going to put another Power Patron from your extra deck, from your deck into your extra deck. And then you're going to trigger both, right? You're going to trigger both of the Power Patrons in your extra deck to get both of the effects. And then you can even set up scales and pendulum summon them back later, potentially, right? If you have the link arrows for it, and so on and so forth, right? You can do all that as well in the deck now. So there's a lot of potential with this card, and this card feels, I mean, obviously this card is tailor-made for the Power Patron deck, or whether it's Elf Node or Doom Z or whatever. It's hard for me to judge exactly in which decks this card is going to go. Like, because essentially with the new Power Patron support from Blazing Dominion, the question is, do you still play an Archmage deck, but you put a couple Power Patrons in? Do you play a Doom Z deck and you put a couple Power Patrons in? Or do you just play like an all Power Patron deck and you combine the entire lore into one deck? All of that is a possibility, and it's very hard for me to predict which direction it's going to go, especially with this card in the mix now. I think if the OCG is anything to go by here, over there, I think they've more so done the thing where they still play the one of the decks. Like, they still play like Archmage or mainly Doom Z or Elf Node, but they put like a couple of the Power Patrons into some of them, right? I think this is the card, however, that could maybe make like the pure Power Patron deck or the all Power Patron deck a thing, right? This is a kind of card that could make that work. Because you can access it with your searchers. You don't have to draw it. But if you do draw it, it makes all your combos stronger. Like, this is a potentially really, really strong card. So I think this is interesting because it can really change everything. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, my personal expectation for Blazing Dominion format was that the specifically Elf Node was not going to be as good as it was in the OCG. I think Elf Node is eventually going to be very strong when we get the new Synchro in Chaos Origin, but for now, I personally felt like the fact that Baron the Fleur is banned in the TCG makes Elf Node a lot worse. Maybe it would have still been good, or maybe it is still good. Once again, this is just my like preemptive thought on the deck. But I felt like the fact that it doesn't have access to Baron, because Baron is a card that the deck was able to summon very, very early. because of their level manipulations, it was super easy to summon a level 10 synchro because they all got level 6s and their tuner is level 1, but it can increase the level by 3. So it makes really convenient level 10 synchros. And the fact that we don't have Baron, I think, makes the deck a lot weaker, which is good because Baron allowed the deck. Basically, the play pattern of the deck in the OCG is very much the thing that I despise, which is like you make Baron and then you keep comboing into crazy shit after, which is very toxic. So the fact that we don't have Baron is good. The fact that we get this card, however, might make a difference with how you can approach the deck now. But I guess it doesn't give you a negate or anything for stuff like Nibiru or Droll and Lockbird or whatever. So we'll have to wait and see how big of a deal that still is. But it's certainly an interesting shakeup to the format, potentially, right? Because I was just expecting... I was expecting those decks to just be like weaker than they are in the OCG. But this is a card that is hard to calculate with. This might change things up. We might have to revisit all of those decks and maybe see how this card changes the entire Power Patron package, which is cool. I suppose, as long as the only thing that I don't want to see from this card is I don't want people to just spam like the level 10s into their extra deck, then make a Link 2, then Pendulum Summon them, and then make like Varudras instead of Baron. But that's something I could definitely see happening. It absolutely could. I feel like that's the most likely way you're gonna see these cards being played, is you just like put a bunch of level 10s into your extra deck, you make a Link 2, you Pendulum Summon those, and that all of that can happen without your normal summon, right? I'm sure there's 1-card combos or 2-card combos that are going to like set up Varudras before even doing your normal summon. And that is scary. Your Power Patron plays Varudras? Yeah, I figured they would. But we'll see, I guess. But I think this is the kind of thing that these decks needed. Also Doom Z, because Doom Z also has a lot of like synergy with this, I think. And Doom Z is a deck that is, I think, a little bit like looking for more consistency, more starters, more 2-card combo enablers. I think that card is really good in that deck as well. So, long story short, it's hard for me to say exactly how good this card makes those decks, but I can definitely see the applications, and I think it's a phenomenal card for those decks. So it is definitely a surprise, and it's going to give us a significant shakeup into how we're going to approach the new format, because this card was not anticipated. I was not expecting a card like this to buff those decks in this way, and it's going to be interesting to see for national season if this card is going to make a difference, or if it's still going to be Cool Tune as the best deck, right? But we're gonna have to wait and see. But for now, that is an announcement that I wasn't expecting, honestly. That card is pretty strong. You can also add this card with Beyond the Pendulum, scale it, then Pendulum Summon patrons, then use its effect to bounce itself back to the hand because the patrons have 1,000 or less, then special summon it and use its Electromite effect. Yeah, I was wondering how you would use the scale effect to good use, but I think it's something that you can do. Like, let's say in the previous example where you draw this card with another Power Patron, right? One thing you can do is you can just scale them first and then conduct a Pendulum Summon in the beginning, then bounce it back to your hand and then use the other effect, right? Like you're gonna have the option to sequence it however you want, depending on what your hand is or what the situation in the game is, right? So because that's the good thing about the scale effect, is like if you commit it to the scale, it might not stay there, right? You're not committed to it as it being your high scale, and you're not getting the other effect. You can use it as your high scale, Pendulum Summon, back to your hand, and then use it as an extender, right? And you can even then, if you use it as an extender, you can pop your other scale, which is really good because it means both of the scales that you typically commit to your Pendulum Summon, both of those cards you will get back. You will get value from those cards. If you Pendulum Summon, both of your scales basically go back into rotation and you get value from them, which is powerful. Because basically it gives you back the 2 cards that you invest for Pendulum Summoning.